$10 million placed in front of you, no effort required, no delay, just one decision standing between you and a life most people spend decades chasing. The room goes quiet, the number feels heavy, almost unreal. And yet there exists a philosophy that would calmly step back and say no, not out of fear, not out of confusion, but out of clarity. This is where things begin to shift, because this is not about money anymore. It is about power. It is about control, and more importantly, it is about what that money quietly takes away while everyone else is busy looking at what it gives. A Stoic would reject $10 million instantly. That sounds wrong at first. It feels like a mistake. It feels like walking away from freedom. But what if that freedom is not real? What if that money carries a cost that most people never notice until it is too late? This is the part people rarely talk about. The hidden price. The silent trade. The moment where a person stops owning their life and slowly becomes owned by the very thing they once desired. And the most dangerous part is that it does not feel like a loss in the beginning. It feels like winning. This video will take you deeper into that idea, not on the surface, not the usual advice about money or success, but the deeper truth behind why some of the most disciplined minds in history trained themselves to detach from wealth, even when they had access to it. You will understand the Stoic reason for saying no, and it is not about rejecting success. It is about protecting something far more valuable, something most people lose without even realizing it. Control over their thoughts, control over their choices, control over their life. There is a lesser-known pattern that repeats itself across time. People who gain sudden wealth often lose something they cannot easily get back. Peace becomes fragile. Decisions become influenced. Freedom becomes conditional. The world starts treating them differently, and slowly they begin to treat themselves differently too. This is not just theory. It is a quiet reality that has shaped the lives of many, yet remains ignored because the reward looks too good to question. Stoicism does not fall for that illusion. It forces a different question. Not what will I gain, but what will this take from me? By the end of this video, you will see money in a way that most people never do. You will learn how Stoics measure value beyond numbers. You will understand why the ability to walk away is one of the highest forms of power, and you will start to notice the invisible chains that come attached to things that look like opportunities. This is not about becoming poor or rejecting ambition. This is about becoming untouchable, reaching a point where no amount of money can control your decisions, your values, or your peace of mind. There is also a deeper layer that makes this even more important today. Modern life constantly pushes the idea that more is always better. More money, more status, more recognition. But this constant chase creates dependency, and dependency quietly destroys freedom. The Stoics saw this long before it became normal. They trained themselves to need less so that nothing could be used against them. That is the real strategy. That is the real protection. Because the moment you need something too much, you become vulnerable to it. Stay with this till the end, because the final idea will change the way you look at success itself. It will challenge the definition that has been repeated for years. And it will give you a perspective that very few people ever develop. A perspective that can save you from making decisions that look right on the outside but slowly damage you on the inside. This is not just about $10 million. It is about every decision where you are offered something in exchange for a part of yourself. So if you are ready to understand the Stoic reason behind one of the most unexpected decisions, if you want to learn how to protect your freedom in a world that constantly tries to buy it, and if you want to see what real wealth actually looks like beyond numbers, then you are in the right place. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe now, and let's begin this journey into a mindset that refuses to be controlled. The world keeps repeating one powerful idea until it starts to feel like truth. And that idea is simple. More money means a better life, more freedom, more happiness, more respect, more security. And at first glance, it makes perfect sense because money removes struggle. It makes things easier. It opens doors. It gives access. It solves problems that once felt impossible. And because of this, people begin to believe that money is not just a tool, but the final answer, the ultimate solution, the one thing that will fix everything at once, and slowly without noticing. This belief becomes dangerous because it hides an uncomfortable reality, a reality that does not fit the dream, because if money truly guaranteed peace and happiness, then the richest people would be the calmest, the most fulfilled, the most free. But that is not what happens. Again and again you see people with everything still feeling restless, still feeling pressure, still unable to sit quietly with their own thoughts, still chasing something they cannot name. And this creates a strange contradiction where the outside looks perfect, but the inside feels unstable. And this is where the illusion starts to break, because money can change your environment, but it cannot change your mind. It can remove discomfort, but it cannot create inner stability. It can buy comfort, but not clarity. And this difference is where most people get lost. They spend years trying to fix internal chaos using external solutions, and it never fully works, because the source of the problem was never outside to begin with. And this is the first thing Stoicism forces you to see clearly, the separation between what you can control and what you cannot. A line that most people ignore, but one that changes everything once you understand it. Because control is not just about actions, it is about where your power truly lies. Your thoughts, your reactions, your decisions, your values, these are yours. They cannot be taken unless you give them away. But money sits in a different category. It is partly external. It can come and go. It can be influenced by forces you do not control. Markets shift, people change, situations turn without warning, and even more dangerous than losing money is being shaped by it. Because money does not just sit quietly, it pulls, it pressures, it demands attention, it starts influencing choices in subtle ways. And if you are not careful, it slowly moves from being something you have to something that has you. And this shift is almost invisible in the beginning. It starts small, a decision made for profit instead of principle, a compromise that feels temporary, a delay in saying no when you know you should. And over time, these small shifts build into a pattern where your decisions are no longer fully yours. They are influenced, adjusted, controlled. And this is the moment where freedom begins to fade. Because freedom is not about having more options, it is about having the ability to choose without being controlled by desire or fear. And when money starts deciding for you, that ability weakens. And this is why a Stoic looks deeper before accepting anything, especially something as powerful as $10 million, because the question is never just about what is gained. It is about what comes with it, what is attached to it, what changes because of it. And these are the questions most people avoid because they are too focused on the number itself. But every reward carries a cost, sometimes obvious, sometimes hidden. And the hidden costs are always the most dangerous because they do not show themselves until later, until you are already involved, until walking away becomes difficult. And $10 million sounds like pure opportunity. But what if it comes with expectations, with pressure, with loss of time, with responsibilities that you cannot escape? What if it changes how people treat you, how they expect from you, how they depend on you? What if it slowly replaces your quiet moments with constant noise, your freedom with constant obligation, and even deeper, what if it starts changing your values, not suddenly but gradually, where things that once mattered start to fade, and things that never mattered begin to take over? And this is how people lose themselves without realizing it, not in one big decision but in a series of small adjustments, each one justified, each one explained, until one day they look back and cannot recognize the person they have become. And this is why the cost must always be examined, because if it costs your mind, it is too expensive, no matter the number, no matter the reward, because your mind is where everything begins, your peace, your clarity, your strength, your ability to think, to decide, to stand firm. And once that is disturbed, everything else starts to weaken. And this is where Stoicism offers a different definition of wealth, one that does not depend on numbers, one that cannot be taken away, one that grows stronger the less it relies on external things. True wealth is self-control, the ability to remain steady no matter what changes around you. It is inner peace, a calm that does not depend on circumstances. It is freedom from desire, not because desire is evil, but because uncontrolled desire leads to dependency, and dependency leads to vulnerability, and vulnerability leads to loss of control. And this chain is what Stoics train themselves to break. They do not reject money completely. They understand its use. They respect its role, but they refuse to depend on it. They refuse to attach their identity to it, because attachment is where the danger begins. The moment something becomes necessary for your happiness, it gains power over you, and money is one of the easiest things to become attached to, because it promises so much. It promises security, respect, comfort, and once you believe you need it to feel complete, you start making decisions to protect it at all costs, even if those decisions go against your values, even if they limit your freedom, even if they slowly trap you in a life that no longer feels like your own. And this is where the trap becomes clear, because many people do not gain money freely. They trade for it. They trade their time, their energy, their principles, their independence, and at first it feels worth it. The reward is visible, the benefits are immediate, but over time the trade becomes heavier, the cost becomes clearer, and the freedom they thought they were buying starts to disappear, because now they cannot walk away. They cannot say no. They cannot choose differently. They are locked into a system that they helped build. And this is the real danger. Not the money itself, but the loss of control that comes with it. Because the moment money owns your choices, you are no longer the owner of your life. And this is not a dramatic statement. It is a quiet reality that plays out every day. People staying in situations they do not like because they cannot afford to leave. People accepting conditions they do not agree with because the reward is too high to refuse. People adjusting their values to fit their income instead of the other way around. And all of this happens slowly, without a clear moment where everything changes, which makes it even more dangerous, because there is no single point to resist, only a series of small moments where it becomes easier to give in than to stand firm. And this is exactly why a Stoic might say no, not because the money is bad, but because the cost is too high. If it demands integrity, it is rejected, because integrity once lost is difficult to recover. If it disturbs peace, it is rejected, because peace is the foundation of a stable life. If it takes away freedom, it is rejected, because freedom is the ability to live according to your own values, not according to external pressure. And this logic may seem extreme in a world that values gain above all else, but it is also what protects a person from becoming controlled, from becoming dependent, from becoming lost. And to understand this more clearly, consider two paths that look similar from a distance but feel completely different when lived. One man accepts a large amount of money, his life changes quickly, he gains comfort, status, access, but along with that comes expectation, pressure to maintain, pressure to perform, pressure to continue, and slowly his time is no longer his own. His decisions are influenced by what he might lose, not just what he might gain. He becomes careful in a way that limits him. He cannot speak freely, he cannot act freely, he cannot walk away easily, and even when he feels the weight of it, he stays because the cost of leaving feels too high. And over time this pressure becomes normal, this lack of freedom becomes routine, and he forgets what it felt like to be fully in control of his own life. While another man chooses differently. He has less money, fewer external rewards, but his time belongs to him. His decisions are guided by his values, not by fear of loss. He can say no without hesitation. He can walk away without regret. He can remain steady because nothing external has the power to shake him deeply. And from the outside, this life may look smaller, less impressive, but from the inside it feels complete, it feels free, it feels stable in a way that cannot be bought. And this contrast reveals something important, that the size of your wealth does not determine the quality of your life, but the level of control you have over yourself does. And this is the point where the illusion fully breaks, because more money does not automatically create a better life. It only amplifies what is already there. If there is clarity, it can expand it. If there is chaos, it can deepen it. If there is control, it can support it. If there is dependency, it can strengthen it. And without awareness, without discipline, without a clear understanding of what truly matters, money becomes just another force that shapes you instead of something you use wisely. And this is why Stoicism places so much emphasis on the internal state, because that is the only place where true stability exists. Everything else can change, everything else can be lost, everything else can influence you if you let it, but your ability to think clearly, to choose wisely, to remain steady, that is where real power lies, and protecting that power becomes more important than gaining anything external, even something as tempting as $10 million, because in the end, the question is not how much you have, but how much of yourself you had to give away to get it, and whether what you gained was worth what you lost along the way. And this question does not come with an easy answer. It requires honesty, it requires awareness, it requires the courage to see beyond the surface, beyond the numbers, beyond the promises, and to recognize that not every opportunity is truly an opportunity. Some are simply well-disguised trades, offering something visible in exchange for something invisible. And once you begin to see this clearly, the decision changes, the attraction weakens, and the idea of saying no longer feels like a loss, but like a form of protection, a way to remain whole in a world that constantly tries to divide your attention, your values, and your sense of control. Everything changes when the question changes, and this is the shift most people never make, because they are trained to look at the reward first, to focus on the number, the comfort, the promise of an easier life. But the Stoic mind moves in the opposite direction. It pauses and asks a different question, not how much money is being offered, but what will it cost me to accept it? What part of my time will disappear? What part of my peace will be disturbed? What part of my values will be tested? And what part of my freedom will slowly fade? Because once you start seeing life through this lens, the illusion begins to lose its power, and decisions become clearer, sharper, more intentional. You stop being impressed by numbers and start being aware of consequences. You stop chasing blindly and start choosing carefully. And this is where true control begins, not in having everything, but in knowing exactly what you are willing to trade and what you are not. Because success is no longer measured by profit alone. It is measured by peace, by stability, by the ability to sleep without pressure and wake up without regret. It is measured by control, by the power to say no without fear and yes without hesitation. And in this new definition, comfort is no longer the goal, clarity is, because comfort can be taken, comfort can be manipulated, comfort can turn into dependency, but clarity stays. Clarity protects, clarity guides every decision with precision, and once you have that, you are no longer easy to influence, no longer easy to control, no longer easy to trap. And this is the real strength behind the Stoic mindset. It does not reject money out of weakness. It rejects anything that tries to replace inner strength with external dependence. It rejects anything that demands a piece of your identity in exchange for temporary gain, because at that point it is no longer a reward. It is a trade that slowly takes more than it gives. And this is why a Stoic does not reject money. They reject slavery, the kind that does not look like chains but feels like pressure, the kind that does not force you but convinces you, the kind that grows quietly until you no longer remember what it felt like to be completely free. And breaking away from that requires awareness. It requires discipline. It requires the courage to walk away even when everything around you says move forward. And that is what separates a controlled life from a conscious one, because in the end, the real fortune is not what you gain, it is what you refuse to lose. Your mind, your peace, your values, your freedom, the things that once gone are difficult to recover, and once you truly understand that, the way you see success will never be the same again. You will move differently, think differently, choose differently, and that is where your real power begins. So if this perspective opened your eyes even a little, if it made you question things you never questioned before, then take a moment right now to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this, because sometimes one idea is enough to change the direction of an entire life. And this might be that idea.